You know that feeling when the world finally goes quiet? It's late, maybe 3 in the morning. The streets are empty, the notifications stop buzzing, and for the first time all day, you can actually hear yourself think. That's the moment when the truth shows up. The fears you've been pushing away, the dreams you've been putting on hold, the questions you keep avoiding, they all come rushing in. Most of the time we drown them out with distractions. We scroll until our eyes get heavy. We let the TV play in the background. We text people we don't even want to talk to. But what if instead of running from that silence, you leaned into it? What if you used it? That's the hidden power of what I call the ASMR rule. Most people think of ASMR as those YouTube videos with whispers, tapping, or soft sounds. And sure, they can be relaxing. But this rule isn't about YouTube, it's about life. It's about slowing down enough to notice the smallest details that are already there, waiting to reset your mind. The way your car engine hums when you're driving alone at night. The sound of rain hitting your window while the world outside is still. The steady rhythm of your own breathing when you finally stop rushing. Those details seem small, but they are anchors. They pull you back into the present when your head is spinning in 100 different directions. Life in America doesn't exactly invite silence. We're surrounded by noise every second. Traffic, news, social media, work emails, endless demands. And because it's so constant, most people don't even realize how much it's draining them. You wake up tired, go to work tired, come home tired, and still can't fall asleep because your brain won't shut off. That cycle isn't because you're weak. It's because you've never been taught how to find peace in the middle of chaos. And that's where the ASMR rule comes in. The ASMR rule teaches you that calm isn't something you find on vacation or something you'll stumble into when life finally gets easier. Calm is something you create right where you are, in the middle of all the noise. When you start noticing the little things, the scratch of a pen on paper, the shuffle of leaves in the wind, the sound of your shoes hitting the sidewalk, you remind yourself that you're not just surviving the day, you're living it. And in that shift, everything starts to change. Think about the last time you were in a coffee shop. You were probably in line, impatient, thinking about where you had to be next. But if you had paused for just a second, you would have noticed the grinding of the beans, the hiss of the milk steaming, the laughter at the table near the window. Those sounds are more than background noise. They're proof that life is happening in this exact moment, right in front of you. You just have to tune in. When you practice the ASMR rule, you train yourself to stop running on autopilot. You start paying attention to the signals that bring you back into balance. And the crazy thing is, once you begin noticing them, you realize they've been there all along. The world was never as loud as you thought. It's just that you forgot how to listen. Here's something simple you can try. Tonight, when you're lying in bed, don't reach for your phone, just lie there and listen. Maybe you'll hear the low hum of the AC, a car passing in the distance, or even the creak of your house settling. Instead of brushing those sounds off as nothing, let them remind you that you are here in this moment, alive and breathing. That single practice can shift your state of mind more than hours of distraction ever will. The ASMR rule is about reclaiming control from the chaos. It's about realizing that peace isn't some distant thing you'll get to someday. It's right here, hidden in the quiet details you've been ignoring. And when you finally learn to hear them, you start to hear yourself again. You start to feel like yourself again, and that's when life begins to change. There's a voice inside you that you've probably ignored for years, not because you don't care, but because it's so easy to drown it out. We live in a country where every second is filled with noise, notifications, news, the constant scroll of social media, the endless stream of opinions and ads telling you who to be. Somewhere in that storm, your own voice gets buried, and the longer you ignore it, the harder it becomes to even recognize it. That's why so many people wake up feeling lost, like they've been living someone else's life instead of their own. The ASMR rule isn't just about hearing the world around you, it's about hearing yourself again. When was the last time you sat still without music, without your phone, without TV or podcasts, and just let your thoughts speak? For most people, that kind of silence feels uncomfortable. But silence isn't empty. Silence is where your real thoughts live. And in a world this loud, Learning to listen might be the bravest thing you ever do. Your inner voice shows up in small ways. The gut feeling that tells you a situation isn't right. The quiet doubt that surfaces when you think about a job you don't love. The whisper that says you're meant for more than this. The problem isn't that your voice is missing. The problem is that you've trained yourself not to hear it because life convinces you you're too busy. The ASMR rule gives you permission to pause, not to silence your thoughts, but to finally let them speak. When you practice this, you'll realize the answers you've been chasing were inside you all along. The anxiety you feel isn't random. It's a signal that something in your life needs to change. The frustration you carry isn't weakness. It's your inner voice demanding better. Avoiding these truths doesn't erase them. It just makes you miserable while they wait for you to listen. Think about all the times you said, "I knew it." Maybe you ignored red flags in a friendship. Maybe you stayed in a relationship that wasn't working. Maybe you passed up an opportunity because you doubted yourself. And later, when it fell apart, you said those 3 words, "I knew it." That wasn't hindsight. That was your inner voice. You heard it. You just didn't trust it. This is where the ASMR rule changes everything. It helps you rebuild that trust. It reminds you that your intuition matters, that your feelings are valid, that your inner voice is wiser than the noise outside. And the more you practice paying attention, the stronger it gets. Over time, you stop seeking validation from everyone else. You stop chasing noise and start trusting stillness. Here's something simple you can try. The next time you're sitting alone in your car, don't turn on the radio right away. Let the engine's hum be the only sound. Notice what thoughts come up. At first, they might feel random or uncomfortable, but don't push them away. That's your voice, the one you've been missing. And the more you practice hearing it, the harder it becomes to ignore. The ASMR rule isn't about finding peace in silence just to relax. It's about realizing that silence reconnects you to yourself. And once you hear yourself clearly, you can finally start living in alignment with who you really are, not just who the world expects you to be. That's when you stop surviving life and start shaping it. Most people think the problem is not knowing what they want. Deep down, you do. The real problem is you stopped trusting your own signal. That's where the ASMR rule helps. Slow the world, lower the volume, let the quiet reveal what's true. In stillness, you stop mistaking motion for progress and start noticing direction. Clarity isn't loud or dramatic. It shows up as a calm knowing, the kind that makes your next step feel natural instead of forced. Life here moves fast. Early alarms, coffee, traffic deadlines, non-stop pings. By evening, you're overstimulated, and silence feels awkward, like an empty room to avoid. But silence isn't empty. It's a compass. Remember the you that wasn't filtered by fear, the kid who drew without overthinking and sang in the back seat. That person isn't gone, just buried under noise, expectations, bills, timelines. Getting practical isn't wrong, but it can morph into ignore what you actually want. The ASMR rule invites you to undo that, one quiet moment at a time. Start small, sit in the kind of quiet that makes you fidget. Face your phone down. Breathe until you can hear simple sounds again. The fan, distant traffic, your own inhale. Don't judge your thoughts. Let them float up. Patterns appear. You notice what drains you and what lights you. You see which commitments you resent and which energize you. That's data you can use. Distraction hides what silence reveals. Binging dulls the ache for an hour. Scrolling blurs restlessness. When the screen goes dark, the pull returns. You're not broken. Your life is paging you. Answering that page requires room, not more noise. Maybe your job looks good on paper but costs your spirit. Maybe habits numb instead of heal. Maybe a relationship asks you to shrink. Picture staying the same for a year. Do your shoulders tighten, your jaw clench? Feedback. Now picture one small step. Enroll in the class, lift 3 days a week. Pitch the idea, book therapy. If your chest lightens, that's feedback too. We treat devices better than ourselves. Low battery, charge, weak signal, move near a window. But when the mind is depleted, we add more input. The ASMR rule flips that. Create micro pockets of quiet like outlets. A silent shower with only water as soundtrack. A headphones-free walk where you hear your footsteps. 2 minutes in the parked car before work. Hands on the wheel, Eyes closed, breath steady. Small doses, big effect. Here's a loop that fits a busy American day. Morning, 30 seconds of stillness before any screen. Notice one sound, one breath, one intention. Midday. Step outside for 3 slow breaths and clock one detail you'd miss. Night. In bed with lights off. Listen for 3 layers of sound, from closest to farthest, until your body softens. Consistency beats intensity. Practice like this and your inner voice gets clearer, not because it yells, but because you gave it a clean channel. Decisions simplify. If something is for you, you feel ease. If it isn't, you feel resistance no pep talk can smooth. You stop asking the crowd what to do and start asking the quiet answers. None of this needs a cabin in the woods. It needs respect for small signals. The hum of the fridge at midnight, the click of a turn signal on a near-empty freeway, the rhythm of your heartbeat under your palm. The ASMR rule returns you to those basics. And once you're there, you remember what you knew all along. Your life isn't waiting somewhere else, it's here, it gets clear when you do. The ASMR rule isn't just about sitting in silence, it's about training your brain to notice what's usually drowned out. Because here's the truth, most people aren't really living, they're just reacting. Alarm goes off, you react. Emails pile up, you react. Traffic frustrates you, you react. By the end of the day, you're drained not because you did anything meaningful, but because you spent all your energy responding to noise. Silence breaks that cycle. It flips you from reacting to choosing. Imagine the difference between being pulled into a rushing crowd versus stepping onto the sidewalk and choosing your own pace. That's what happens when you use quiet intentionally. You step out of the chaos long enough to realize you don't have to move with the crowd at all. Think of a typical day. You wake up, grab your phone, check texts, scroll for just 5 minutes, and before you know it, 20 minutes are gone. Your brain is already cluttered before your feet even touch the floor. Now imagine instead, you wake up, and before anything else, you give yourself 90 seconds of silence. No screen, no noise. Just you noticing your breath and asking, what do I want this day to feel like? That tiny pause rewires your entire morning. Instead of carrying everyone else's noise, you set your own tone. Americans talk a lot about freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of choice, freedom to live however you want. But what good is freedom if you're not present enough to use it? What good is choice if you're so distracted you pick the same unfulfilling path every time? Silence is the foundation of real freedom because it clears the fog and reminds you that you're not stuck, you're choosing. Here's another layer most people miss. Silence doesn't just help you notice your own thoughts, it helps you notice the world's details too. Walk through a city street with no headphones and you'll hear snippets of laughter, the rhythm of footsteps, the breeze between buildings. On a quiet night, you'll notice the hum of your fridge or the way your heartbeat slows when you finally breathe deeply. These small details ground you. They remind you that life isn't just happening in your head or on your phone, it's happening all around you. And when you're grounded, decisions don't feel so overwhelming. You don't need a dramatic reset to change your life. You just need consistent space. 5 minutes of silence every morning. A quiet car ride home without the radio. Sitting on the porch at night and actually noticing the air. These aren't complicated rituals, they're tiny practices that create massive clarity over time. And here's where it gets real. Silence also forces you to face the stuff you've been avoiding. That's why so many people can't sit still without grabbing their phone, because when the world gets quiet, your worries get loud, regrets echo, fears whisper, restlessness surfaces. But don't run from that. That's the doorway to growth. If silence makes you uncomfortable, it's because something inside you wants your attention, and ignoring it won't make it go away. Facing it will. Picture it like cleaning out a messy closet. At first, pulling everything out feels overwhelming. You see the clutter you've been stuffing away, and it looks worse before it gets better. But if you stick with it, piece by piece, the space clears. Silence works the same way. It shines a light on your mental clutter, and yes, it's messy at first. But stay with it and soon you'll feel lighter, clearer, freer. The ASMR rule teaches you that the life you want isn't hidden in more noise, it's hidden underneath it. And the moment you start peeling back the layers of distraction, you uncover a version of yourself that's calmer, wiser, and stronger than you thought. Most of us are taught to hustle louder, work harder, grind until something clicks. And while effort matters, the truth is, noise without direction is just exhaustion. The ASMR rule flips that belief. It says, quiet first, action second. Get clear before you get busy. Because clarity saves you from wasting years climbing the wrong ladder. Think about how many people wake up one day, decades into a job, realizing they never actually chose it. They just followed the noise, what parents suggested, what friends were doing, what looked secure, what paid enough. And yet inside, there's this ache. A question they never stopped long enough to answer. Is this even what I want? Silence gives you the courage to ask, and more importantly, the courage to listen. You'll notice something powerful once you begin practicing stillness. The things that drain you become obvious. You'll catch yourself dreading certain meetings, certain conversations, even entire environments. And on the flip side, you'll feel a quiet spark when you do things that align with you, reading, exercising, creating, learning. Those sparks are signals. They're not random. They're your compass pointing north. This is why quiet time isn't wasted time, it's the most productive part of your day. In those moments, your brain sorts through chaos. It connects dots you missed. It whispers the answers you've been chasing everywhere else. That's why the best ideas often hit you in the shower, on a late-night drive, or lying awake in bed. Because finally, the noise has lowered enough for your own thoughts to break through. Here's something else that silence does. It strengthens your confidence. In a loud world, confidence is often mistaken for volume. The one who talks most, posts most, stands tallest. But true confidence is calm. It doesn't need to shout because it knows. When you practice the ASMR rule, you stop searching for validation in other people's reactions. You start building trust in your own, and that trust changes everything, from how you work, to how you love, to how you carry yourself in every room. Picture walking into a crowded space. Normally, the energy pulls you, who's looking, who's laughing, who's whispering, but when you're grounded in stillness, none of that shakes you. You walk with a quiet strength that people notice even if they can't explain it. That's the power of someone who's tuned into their own signal, not the static around them. The beauty of this is that it doesn't require special tools or money or even a lot of time. It just requires a decision, that your peace matters, that your clarity is worth more than constant distraction. Americans spend billions every year on self-help programs, supplements, apps, gadgets. And yet, the thing that often works best, silence, is free. It's been there all along. So the question becomes, are you willing to sit with yourself long enough to hear what you've been avoiding? Because that's where the real breakthroughs hide. Not in another scroll, not in another purchase, but in those quiet, sometimes uncomfortable moments where truth finally has room to surface. The ASMR rule reminds us, your life will only be as loud as the noise you allow, or as clear as the silence you create. And when you consistently choose silence, you realize something game-changing. Clarity was never missing. It was always there, waiting for you to listen. Habits decide your future more than motivation ever will. Motivation sparks for a moment, but habits carry you through the long days. That's why the ASMR rule is more than an idea. It has to be a practice. Because silence works only if you create space for it consistently. Think about it like fitness. You don't get stronger by lifting weights once. You get stronger by showing up again and again, even on the days you don't feel like it. The same is true here. Every time you choose silence, even for just a few minutes, you're training your brain to slow down, to focus, to breathe. Over time, that training builds a new default. Calm instead of chaos, clarity instead of confusion. The simplest way to begin is with mornings. Before texts, before coffee, before the rush. Take 3 minutes of silence. Sit at the edge of your bed or step outside and just breathe. Notice how your body feels. Notice your thoughts without judging them. Ask yourself, what actually matters today? That tiny pause changes how the rest of the day unfolds. During the day, use micro moments of silence. In line at the grocery store, instead of pulling out your phone, just stand there. Feel your breath. Notice the sounds around you. In the car, instead of blasting music or talk radio, drive in quiet. Let your mind wander. These little choices add up. They become anchors that keep you steady when life tries to pull you in every direction. At night, use silence to reset. Most people fall asleep scrolling, their brains buzzing with headlines, highlights, and endless distractions. No wonder they wake up tired. But if you put your phone down 15 minutes earlier and sit in quiet, maybe with dim lights, maybe just lying still, you'll notice your mind slowing, your stress easing. Sleep comes deeper. Rest feels real. Here's the key. Don't overcomplicate it. You don't need the perfect meditation space, candles, or background tracks. You don't need to sit cross-legged for 30 minutes. That's noise disguised as peace. Real silence is simpler. It's about choosing not to fill every gap with more input. It's about letting the gaps breathe. And here's what makes this powerful for Americans especially. Our culture celebrates busyness. How are you? Busy. That's the standard answer. But busy doesn't always mean productive. Busy often just means distracted. Silence exposes that difference. It helps you see when you're working with purpose and when you're just spinning your wheels to look like you're moving. The ASMR rule teaches that every small choice to embrace quiet is a vote for your future self. It's a vote for clarity, for energy, for alignment. And when you stack those votes daily, your entire life shifts without you even realizing it. One morning you'll wake up, and instead of feeling rushed and restless, you'll feel steady. Instead of craving more noise, you'll crave more peace. And in that peace, you'll finally hear the answers you've been searching for. Because in the end, success doesn't come from the loudest grind, but from the quietest clarity. And that clarity is built, not found, one habit of silence at a time. There comes a point in life when you realize that the noise you've been chasing isn't actually giving you what you thought it would. The likes, the followers, the parties, the endless grind, it all feels good for a while, but then it fades. And what's left is that quiet voice inside asking, is this it? Is this all there is? Most people bury that voice under more distraction. But the ASMR rule says, don't bury it. Listen to it, because that voice is trying to save you. Every American knows what it feels like to live in constant motion. We wake up rushing, we eat on the go, we scroll in between meetings, we fall asleep with TV still on. It feels normal, but normal doesn't always mean right. That lifestyle slowly drains you, like a phone that never gets a full charge. You look alive on the outside, but inside your battery is flashing red. Silence is the charger. It's the thing that brings your energy back to full, so you can actually live instead of just exist. And here's the truth most people avoid. You will never hear your real calling in the middle of noise. You will only hear it in the quiet. That's why some of the biggest breakthroughs in history came when people stepped away from the crowd, when they walked alone, when they took time to think, when they created space to dream. The Wright brothers didn't invent flight by scrolling through endless distractions. Martin Luther King didn't find his vision in chaos. Steve Jobs didn't design the iPhone in a crowded room full of chatter. Greatness grows in silence first, then it echoes in the world. So ask yourself, are you giving yourself enough silence to hear your own greatness, or are you drowning it out with constant noise? That's a hard question, but it's one worth facing, because the clock doesn't stop. Every year you put off listening to yourself is another year spent living someone else's script. And the world doesn't need another copy. The world needs you, the real you, the one buried under all that noise. This is why the ASMR rule matters. It's not just about peace or calm or better sleep. It's about reclaiming your life. It's about saying, I don't have to live on autopilot anymore. I don't have to keep running just because everyone else is running. I can pause, I can listen, I can choose differently. That choice is powerful. That choice separates people who settle from people who lead, people who follow trends from people who build legacies. You don't need to escape to a cabin in the woods or live like a monk. You just need to create small moments of silence where your truth can breathe. And once you taste it, real clarity, real alignment, you'll never want to go back. Because nothing compares to the feeling of finally hearing your own life calling you forward. So let today be the day you start listening. Not tomorrow, not someday, today. Step away from the noise, even for a few minutes, and give yourself permission to hear what's been waiting all along. That whisper you hear, that's you, that's your next chapter. And it's louder than you think once you finally give it the space to speak. One day you will look back on your life and realize that the quiet moments were the most important ones. Not the times you were the loudest in the room, not the times you were chasing every distraction, but the times you slowed down enough to actually feel alive. Those moments of silence were never empty. They were full of answers, full of healing, full of clarity. And that is the essence of the ASMR rule. Silence isn't about being passive. It's about being powerful in a different way. It's about standing so steady that the chaos around you can't shake your core. It's about knowing who you are so deeply that the world's noise doesn't define you anymore. Think about it. Every advertisement, every notification, every headline is fighting for your attention. But your attention is your life. Where it goes, your life follows. And when you reclaim that attention through silence, you reclaim your future. For too long, people have believed success is about constant hustle, never resting, always grinding. But what good is success if you're too drained to enjoy it? What good is achievement if your mind is restless and your heart is tired? Real success is alignment. When what you do on the outside matches who you are on the inside. And that alignment only comes when you slow down enough to hear yourself. So take this rule and carry it with you. Make silence your weapon. Use it in the mornings to start clear, in the afternoons to reset, in the evenings to release. Use it when you're overwhelmed, when you're lost, when you're chasing something that doesn't feel right. Silence doesn't mean weakness, it means strength. It means control. It means you don't need the world's constant noise to feel alive. You already are. Imagine what could change if you practiced this daily. Imagine your stress levels dropping, your focus sharpening, your confidence rising. Imagine how your relationships would shift if you were truly present, not distracted. Imagine how much more you could achieve if you weren't burning energy on noise that doesn't matter. That's not fantasy, that's reality waiting on the other side of choosing silence. And here's the most important truth. You don't need permission. You don't need approval. You don't need anyone to validate it. All you need is the courage to pause, to put the phone down, to close your eyes, to breathe. That one choice can change everything. So as this audiobook ends, your real journey begins. The ASMR rule is not just an idea, it's a way of living, a way of remembering that peace is power, that clarity is currency, that silence is not empty. It's full of everything you've been searching for. From this moment forward, make silence a part of your life. Protect it, practice it, live it. And when the world gets too loud, come back to this truth. In the quiet, you will always find yourself again. And when you find yourself, you find the strength to create a life that's not just successful, but deeply meaningful. This is your rule now, your reminder, your reset. And if you choose it, it will carry you to the life you've been waiting for. The question is, will you pause long enough to take it? If this message spoke to you, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it. Someone you care about might need this reminder today. And if you want more content that helps you reset, refocus, and rise higher, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment and let me know what part of the ASMR rule hit you the hardest. And don't forget to like this video. It helps more people in the US and around the world find it. Thanks for watching.